Hello and welcome back to my channel. So I'm in a little bit of a different setup today, doing a little bit of a different type of video than I have been for the past couple of weeks. And that's because it's time for the mid-year book freakout tag. So basically what that means is I'm just going to be going through the books that I have read over the past 6 months and giving you the scoop. What's good, what's not, and what have I been reading, and do I even like it? So let's go ahead and dive in with question 1. So the first question is, what has been your favorite book of the year so far? For me, hands down, that has to be The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I read this back in January and it still stands as my favorite read of the year so far. I asked for this book for my birthday years ago, I think back in 2022 maybe. Definitely a while ago, and my brother gifted it to me and I left it on my shelf. I did not read it. I had read other things by Taylor Jenkins Reid and liked it, like Daisy Jones and the Six. And so at the beginning of this year, I decided to go ahead and finally pick up Evelyn Hugo, and I love it. It was not at all what I expected going into this book. I really had no expectations going in. I knew nothing about it and I kind of liked it that way, but wow, what a roller coaster of a ride throughout The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It just was amazing. The ups, the downs, the unexpected twists. I could not recommend this more. So basically in this story, you have Evelyn Hugo, who, think of like the Marilyn Monroe of Hollywood. That is the equivalent of Evelyn Hugo. She has gone through the ranks and everyone knows who she is. And she is in her old age now and has decided she wants to write a tell-all and include all 7 of her husbands and basically open up about her elusive life. And she chooses a no-name reporter by the name of Monique. Nobody's sure why she wants this specific reporter to write her tell-all, but Evelyn always has her reasons. And so Monique goes in and together they dive through Evelyn's story, and what a messy story it is. In the end, it's really hard to determine who is the villain of this story, and there's a lot of gray area, but I love the ride. The next question I have is, what was the worst book you have read so far this year? And I'm not including any books that I DNF'd. So for me, that has to be Fans of the Impossible Life by Kate Skleska. By Kate. I had been looking forward to reading this for a long time. It had been on my TBR, it had been on my shelf, and so I finally decided to go ahead and pick it up. And to say that I was disappointed would be an understatement. I no longer have the book with me. I donated it, but in this book, we basically follow 3 teenagers through 3 separate storylines, and it just feels unfinished. It feels like the story ends right in the middle, and you don't ever get closure for anything that you just went through all of these pages. Like, I'm a person who can very much appreciate an open ending, but this was much more than an open ending. It just felt like I was reading the story and it was going, and then it just ended. And we don't know how any of these stories that we've spent so long reading ended up playing out. And so for me, that is why it is a 2-star read. The next question is, what is the best sequel that you have read so far this year? And for me, that has to be Heartstopper Volume 4. I read all of Heartstopper this year, and Volume 4 is by far one of my favorite volumes. I love Nick Nelson and Charlie so much. There's just nothing else that I love more than these 2 right now. And I very much have loved reading their story, and I'm excited for the final installment to come out, but Volume 4 was my favorite. And not to give any spoilers because this is Volume 4, but basically in this volume, Nick and Charlie are each going through waves of their own as Nick confronts, how can I say this without spoiling anything, of Volume 4. Nick confronts his sexuality and how he's feeling, and Charlie is confronting some of his inner demons. And It's just, it's written so well. Really got me. For the next question, we have a new release that you have not read yet but want to. And for me, that is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. I love everything that Casey writes. I have read, her books are right here, Red, White, and Royal Blue, One Last Stop, and now I am so excited to dive into The Pairing. I have the signed edition with the sprayed edges, and it is such a cute book, and I really want to dive into it. I just haven't picked it up yet. So this is a new release that I'm super excited for. I don't even know if it can classify as new anymore, but it's still new to me. What I know about this book is very little. I believe there might be like a poly relationship in this. I know it's gay. Everything that CMQ does is gay. But I don't really want to know that much going into it. It's kind of just how I like to read Casey McQuiston books. I like to be surprised by their quirky set of characters. So I'm really excited and I can't wait to dive into it. The next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And for me, that has to be Puck You by Flynn Novak. Puck You was originally a story that was written on Wattpad and has now been transformed and is going to be published by Wattpad Books, all written by Flynn. And basically the story follows Grace and Sebastian, who are both hockey players. Grace transfers into the same school that Sebastian is at, and she's really excited to have top-tier facilities to play hockey. However, she quickly learns that the girls' team is not at all treated how the boys' team is, and she has a lot to say about that. And so between her and Sebastian and both their fiery attitudes, it causes conflict on and off the ice, and they have to learn to either work together or sit the bench. The next question is your biggest disappointment, and for me, that has to be Lessons in Chemistry. I was so excited to read this book. I bought a copy for me, my friend, my sister-in-law, and my cousin, for all of us to we not necessarily read it at the same time, but we could all read it and talk about it. And I got halfway through before I finally DNF'd. I really tried on this one. There are books that do feminism well, and then there are books that don't do feminism well, and I would have to classify Lessons in Chemistry as a book that did not do feminism well. And what I mean by that is it's a time period piece. So this is a woman in the 50s, and the things that she is able to do just aren't possible. Like owning her own home, having money in a bank account, things that she fights really hard for. It's just not possible. She can't do them. She's constrained by the time period that the piece was set in. And so by writing a novel where a woman could suddenly do all these things, she's not climbing the ladder and working hard in the constraints. You just gave her something that women of that time didn't have, if that makes sense. And so for me, it just felt like I was being forced to read about a woman who somehow is able to defy all laws and has a genius dog who can talk and a genius child. And I didn't agree with the character death. I didn't think it was necessary to move the plot forward. I just had a lot of questions, and they didn't seem to be getting answered, and I could kind of sense where the story was going, and I tapped out. So it was definitely my biggest disappointment of the year. I was really excited to read it. I wanted to watch the TV show that went along with it with Brie Larson. She's one of my favorite actresses, and it just fell short for me. The next question is, what has been your biggest surprise of the year? And for me, that has to be She Followed Herself Back to the Moon by Amanda Lovelace, but not a good surprise. So I love Amanda Lovelace. I have an entire section of my shelf dedicated to her, dedicated to books of hers. I have every book she's ever written and all the variations. And so when she came out with this poetry collection, I was so excited. I was in a bit of a reading slump, so I just got to it at the beginning of this year, and I DNF'd it. it didn't feel like Amanda in this book. It felt like this was something that she had to get out on a deadline, if that makes sense. The poems felt superficial. It felt like there was something brimming underneath the surface, but she never quite got there. And, you know, the snappy Instagram poems do really well, but there has to be more substance to them, and I just felt like we didn't get there with this one. The next question is favorite new author of the year, and for me that has to be Hannah Nicole Mayer, or author of Assistant to the Villain. So I checked this book out from the library and read it on a road trip, and it was so cute. And I immediately went on hold to check out the second book, and it came and passed, and I missed my hold, so I'll have to get back in the line. But I loved this book. I thought it was super campy and super fun, and this was her debut novel, but I would be down to read anything that Hannah writes. I love the way that she wrote the villain of the novel. I love her dialogue and how snappy she is, and I just think for a debut novel, this was such an incredible piece. The next question is your newest fictional crush, and for me that has to be Poison Ivy. This year I've really gotten into comics. I have been just scouring comic stores, collecting, and Poison Ivy is hands down one of my favorites to collect. I love her. I love her stories. I love her with Harley Quinn. I love the Harley Quinn TV show. And so collecting, this is the Cycle of Life and Death series, but basically anything with Poison Ivy in it, I'm reading. I love her. And like, yeah, she's a villain, but like on the scale of villains, Poison Ivy is definitely fighting for the right cause. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a glare on her, so here's my copy. The next question is, who is your favorite new character? And for me, that has to be Nick Nelson. I love Nick from Heartstopper. I think he is a little golden retriever boy, and he is just the cutest. And I think him and Charlie make a perfect little couple. And as I said, I'm excited to see the rest of the series play out, but reading about Nick Nelson and also watching the TV show have been such a joy for me. The next question is a book that made you cry. And for me, that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I don't think I have cried during any book as hard as I cried during this book this year. It just, the ending wrecked me. It really did. And for those that have read it, you understand. And if you haven't, get ready for a plot twist. I saw some people on Goodreads say they saw the plot twist coming. I did not. So get ready for a plot twist with this one. And it shook me to my core. And it's just a beautifully written novel. The next question is a book that made you happy this year. And for me, we're bringing it back to Heartstopper. I don't care how many times I have to talk about Heartstopper. You all should definitely read it. It is such a cute graphic novel, and Nick and Charlie are adorable. And they make me so happy to read their story. Just two little gay, well, Nick is bisexual. No bisexual erasure here. But just two little teens figuring out the world together and supporting each other and always communicating and listening. I mean, God, I wish I was this self-aware as a teen, but I love it. I love every aspect of Heartstopper. The next question is the most beautiful gift you have bought or received this year. And for me, that is this edition of Poison Ivy from DC All In. Look at her. Hello. She's gorgeous. She's everything. I love her. Did I buy it simply for the cover? Yes. And I want her front and center. And the final question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? For this one, I have two to offer. The first book is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I have been seeing nothing but people talk about this book, and I'm so excited to be a person that finally is in the know. But I want to read Songbird of Ballad and Snakes first. So this will definitely be on my second half of the year TBR list. This book follows, I don't want to read too much, but it follows Haymitch and his story during his Hunger Games, which just, mind-blowing. I've heard it is an emotional roller coaster and that it is amazing. So I cannot wait to dive into this. And the second book that I want to dive into in the second half of this year is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I am already about 100 pages in, which really is not that much of a dent, but I'm trying. It is a lot for my brain to comprehend this level of fantasy. I'm not usually that big of a fantasy person, but I loved Fourth Wing. And my aunt has actually already finished the whole series. I gave her Fourth Wing for Christmas, and she's like already way ahead of me. And my cousin has already finished the series, so I'm trying to jump on board. I borrowed Iron Flame from a friend over a year ago, so this is her copy. But I am going to finally try, well, I'm 100 pages in, and I am going to read Iron Flame. And I know that we already have Onyx Storm too, so I have a whole third book to dive into once I finish this one. So that is it for my mid-year book freakout tag. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more content. I don't really make book content much anymore, but I felt like I definitely needed to talk about the books that I've been reading this year because some of them have been amazing. So can't wait to see you guys in next week's video.